I told you they existed, Martha. I told you mermaids were real. Fox News alert. Good morning, everybody. Did President Obama cross the constitutional line dozens of times? That is a historic question heading to the Supreme Court today as that court takes up the boundaries of the presidency, the boundaries of executive power. It's a big deal. Good morning. Hope you had a great weekend. I'm Bill Hemmer, and welcome here to America's Newsroom.
I did, thanks. Good morning. Good to see you this morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum. So the judges are set to decide whether it's legal for a president to bypass Congress to appoint people to top positions. Since taking office in 2009, President Obama has done this 32 times, avoiding congressional approval, doing the appointments while Congress was out of town or not in session. For the time being.
Yeah, Jonah Goldberg, editor-at-large, National Review, and a Fox News contributor. And Jonah, good morning to you. What specifically kicked off this case here now?
Right. In 2012, President Obama... Oh, we're not actually on the air.
Yes, we are, Jonah. Keep going. What happened?
Oh, we are on the air. I
Yeah,
apologize.
No, it's
yeah,
all right.
in 2012, President Obama appointed some nominees to the National Labor Relations Board. And basically what he did was he did it when... the Senate was in essentially a minuscule break. The Senate was formally in session. The Senate was in session to prevent the president from making these appointments, and he basically just declared unilaterally that if there's even the slightest thing that looks like a recess, he can now make appointments unilaterally.
All right, now, you said what he did in 2012 was lawless. Lawless,
Right.
How so?
Well, first of all, it's part of a larger pattern of this president from, unilateral actions on Obamacare. But the standards that he considered to be the law of the land himself when he was a senator and when Harry Reid was doing pro forma sessions in the Senate to block President Bush from making appointments, he considered to be the law of the land. And then, like so many other things with this president, when he became president of the United States, he all of a sudden took a different attitude and basically said that what was the law of the land, what was the accepted practices of the Senate, no longer apply. And we have a lot of constitutional issues here, but one of the most interesting ones is that the president is now saying that he gets to decide when the Senate is in session, which is a violation, by my lights, of the separation of powers. The executive branch doesn't get to decide when the legislative branch is in session. That is up to the legislative branch itself.
Are all presidents guilty of this to a degree? Or is this president more guilty?
All presidents are guilty to a degree, but sometimes distinctions of difference become distinctions of kind. President Bush, basically what's been happening since President Monroe was in office, is that what counts as a recess has been defined down and down and down and down, and each president is looking for these holes in the legislative calendar to get its appointments in. But what President Obama has basically said is that a bathroom break counts as a recess, and he can put in who he wants.
Well, if SCOTUS, Supreme Court, if they rule in favor of they rule in favor of the plaintiffs in this case, does that reset the definition of executive powers? And not only for this president, Jonah, but for administrations in the future?
It does in a certain way. It will have a big effect on executive power and on legislative power. We've seen the power of the presidency grow enormously over the last 150 years, certainly over the last 50 years. And we have what a lot of people on the left and the right consider an imperial presidency. The Senate, historically, and by the Constitution, the text is very clear on this, the Senate has the right of advice and consent, and the president can only make an appointment during a recess. The text of the Constitution says a recess is when the Senate is actually out of session. Now, if the Supreme Court upholds this, the president basically gets to make appointments whenever the Senate blinks or runs out of the room.
Yeah. Jonah, thank you, leading our coverage there out of Washington. It's a Monday, kick-started. Thank you, Jonah. Good to see you there. 4 minutes
Great to
now
be here.
Past the